What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. Sitting very, very separate, distanced all the way across the city from me this week and every week. He's the king of all VR kings, Sofa King himself. It's Jeremy effing King.
Jeremy effing King. Yep. Even my mouthpiece has a mask on, so we are being very socially correct in this moment of quarantine. And sitting way down the block and around the corner and bad neighborhood of Worcester is good old Brian Paul.
And every week on Why We Love PlayStation VR, we dip into the PSVR archive, we pull out a game at random, we dust the blow off bit, save it for Justin Parada and
I'm gathering it all.
And all the party cats out there. We look into it, we dive into it, see if it's been given any love by developers, any updates, any DLC, and then we let you know, the loyal game cats, if it's worth your time. Jeremy, we're taking a little bit of somewhat of a break from our normal mission objective this week. And what we're doing this week is we're actually taking a look at a somewhat newer game, but a game that you guys know I talked quite a bit about when it first came out, and that game is called what, Jeremy?
Separation.
Separation by Recluse Industries, released March 4th, 2020 for $12.99. Interesting pricing structure, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeremy, what kind of game is Separation?
It's like a mild puzzle exploration type of a game, I guess you would say.
Yeah, Martin Wheeler, the single person developer, calls it an ambient adventure. I think pejoratively speaking, we'd say walking sim, which I'm not a huge fan of that term, but at least everyone understands.
More than that, a little more than that, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Kind of like a meditative puzzle game, I would say.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's one person dev team, Martin Wheeler. So he.
I was going to ask you that. One person made this game.
Yeah. It seems very like a very, very personal game, and so he did everything, and the music is actually by a band called Vector Lovers. And I will tell you something about Vector Lovers. That is also the same person. That is also Martin Wheeler, the developer of the game. So everything from top to bottom, man. He did it. You can actually find Vector Lovers albums that date back to 2003. So he's been doing this kind of like ambient electronic music for quite a while now.
Meditative type of a sound to the music in this game, I thought.
Yeah. So can you kind of give me a rundown of what you do in this game?
Well, similar to like what we were speaking of on the last episode, where it's almost like a glimpse into this universe of something. This game just basically is more of a it's a mystery. I don't know, where you're just kind of all of a sudden there, and your objective is to connect these beams, of light through these obelisk type things. But it's not as simple as that. You explore this world and you're finding these. Oh my God, I'm forgetting the term.
Sorrows.
Sorrows. Yes, there's 10 of them, and they're like people that are like I don't know. Frozen in time, if you will, crusted over. They're just these frozen dead something entities. You're basically exploring around, connecting these beams, opening pathways so you can find these sorrows.
Yeah. So you start off and you're in sort of this weird, almost like scientific cryo chamber type thing, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a teddy bear sitting. It seems like he might have woken up in the cryo chamber. Like it doesn't really tell you a lot, right?
No.
And so, but there's a teddy bear sitting there. You look at it, whatever, and then like the door opens up. You step out to it. I mean, I think the first thing everybody says is, "Man, the landscape reminds me of Eco, the PlayStation 2 game."
Yep, very much like Eco. But you know what else? It reminded me heavily in the early parts of Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne.
Wow.
It had a very Nocturne feel to it, where, in the game Nocturne, where the world kind of ends or something and it reverts, it goes inside out, and you can see the landscape all around you, and it's got that eerie feel where everybody's gone or turned into demons, and you're just traveling around. And this game had a very similar feel between Ico and Nocturne, for me at least, where just the atmosphere, the mystery, what was really, really neat about this game's atmosphere is it made me not trust the calmness. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I was always not on edge, but I was always wary of there's just something mysterious and foreboding in this world. And I liked how it dangled that carrot in front of you of a worrisome feeling to it. It did that in such a goddamn subtle way without any kind of anything really to push you into making you feel that way. Just the atmosphere of the game, the dilapidated look to things, the mystery of the fact that there was some sort of a world here that is now gone with that tipped over robot
Yeah.
and these like domes. I don't know. And with the obelisks and the sorrows, I just had no idea what was happening in this world prior to you encountering it. And I found that mystery and that feeling that it presented to be addicting, and it made you just want to stay in that world, you know?
Right, like what's going to be around the next corner? Like, is it going to
Yeah.
reveal more to me? Am I going to figure some of this stuff out? How much of
Mhm.
the game is going to be told to me? How much do I have to interpret?
Yeah.
That was a question. I mean, I don't want to bring up a crappy game by comparison, but there was a game called oh god, is it Mars Alive? It was
Yeah.
Mars
Yeah.
Alive was the survival game, and it
Yeah.
always made me think that something was going to be around the next corner. But unlike Separation, there never was. So it gave me
Mhm.
that same kind of feeling, except Separation actually delivered on my hopes and my desires to see what was around the next corner.
Yeah.
So I think before we get too far into this, I do want to warn people. I know AJ and I did our absolute best not to spoil anything during our reviews because there's not a lot of spoiler stuff when it comes to story wise, but I think some of the
Mhm.
sense of discovery is the best part of this game. So I basically want to say if you haven't played Separation yet, go watch my review and decide if you want to buy it. And if you don't buy it, come back and watch the rest of this. Or if you do buy it, go play it and then come back and watch this because
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about things pretty freely today. It's been out
Mhm.
for long enough where I feel like we can start talking about it and not feel like we're spoiling things.
I avoided watching any kind of coverage on this because I really wanted to jump into it and explore for myself. And I personally am glad I did it that way myself because I'm big on story and exploration driving me further into these games where if somebody told me, oh, this happens, that happens, and this happens, then all I would be doing while I'm playing it is waiting for those key moments
Yeah,
to
yeah,
pass.
for
You know?
sure. So you step out, you see the world, kind of crazy,
Mhm.
right? And I will say that you can kind of see quite a ways off, right?
The draw distance is pretty far, yeah.
Yeah, and that
You
was
know,
something that was
even
actually
on the
patched.
OG.
Yeah. Oh, and that was something that was patched in later. Like there was always a decent draw distance, but in part of the first patch that we got, he increased the draw distance by something like 75%.
Wow.
So you can actually see even further off into the distance now. And I thought that might ruin things because I thought like the fog effect was pretty cool,
Mhm.
but I think it actually is even better this way. And one of the things I think we should probably mention is that if you can see it, you can walk to it or you can get there somehow because
Yeah.
this is actually an open world. There is no
Mhm.
loading screen after you start the game.
No,
You walk
nothing.
around and you are free to explore. No loading screens. Never
Yep.
happens.
Just awesome. Awesome, awesome. I dig when there's just a free open world, you know? It just makes it feel so much more real,
Yeah.
obviously, you know?
So you're walking around the obelisks. You're raising these out of the ground. You're moving them left to right. You're solving sort of like these. I wouldn't say any of the puzzles are super difficult,
No, no.
right? And you basically and every one of these obelisks connects light from the beginning of the world to the end of the world. You're just like
Mhm.
connecting these beam of lights,
Yep.
and that's kind of it. And if you're paying attention, and you go, okay, well, here's where the beam of light connects to. I'm right here. I just created that. You have to kind of like look off and go, well, where's the next one? Because
Yeah,
that's going to be where I want to go. If you don't pay attention to that stuff, it's really easy to get lost, and I think you can get lost very easily in this game.
true. Yep.
Especially,
And time periods between it. So I had played it and I played it for a while. Then I took a while break before I was able to jump back into it again.
yeah,
And we actually talked about this. It took me about 45 minutes of kind of wandering around and like kind of getting my bearings back before I was like, aha, here I am. But I got to tell you, for me to jump back in and to spend 45 minutes to figure out where I was just so I can continue is a huge plus in my book to show how immersive and interesting this game was, where I wasn't even making progress
yeah,
and I was still all about it. Whereas even jumping into Resident Evil games, the old OG ones, when you load up and you just saved in the ribbon, you open the door from the room you're in, and you're like, oh my God, there's 3 zombies. I have no bullets. What was I doing? Where was I going? And I'd be like, fuck this game, you know?
Right.
But this title, no, and I liked how the game, puzzle wise, connecting these beams of light, it naturally got more challenging. And I don't want to say challenging because it's not overly frustratingly like, what do I do? It's more, at certain points is various paths and these obelisks and those lights. You might have to raise one of those obelisks up to connect light to somewhere different so you can access areas and open a door and get some sorrows that way, and then lower it and open it this way. You know what I mean? So like it seamlessly got a little bit more interactive to solve these things seamlessly. It wasn't just like the learning curve just didn't hit a wall and it was like, what do I do? It just seemed naturally more deep the further you got.
Yeah.
It wasn't forced at all.
Let's put a pin in the gameplay and talk about the music a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
because man, like at first I was like, this is okay, this is suitable, this fits the mood of the game. It seems like it's very, it's a game about solitude and depression and loneliness, and so it's
Mm-hmm.
to kind of have this electronic, like just ambient music. It's not.
Yeah.
At first I was like, this is suitable. This works for the game. But man, there were moments in this where I like started to tear up and I couldn't quite figure out why. And
Mm-hmm.
it was because of the audio cues, I think. You're just walking along and like the sun's reflecting off of the water, and
Yeah.
you're all by yourself in this gigantic world, and then the
Mm-hmm.
music hits you at just the right time during all of this, and you're like, whew, like man, like I think it really made me think about things that I hadn't thought about for a long time. Like
Yeah.
maybe some sensitive issues going on in this game. I think that was. I don't want to ever speak for the developers and be like, well, this was the message that they were trying to convey. But
Mm-hmm.
I think like any good piece of art, like it's open to interpretation, and something really hit home for me during this one.
Yeah. And I mean, I not that I ever got sad personally playing the game or anything, but I almost felt empathy for the entity I was playing as. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean? Like what they went through in the game, because like, who are they? What are they doing? What is all of these other sorrows? What are they? Like the music was such a perfect complement. It's like adding the right side dish to your salmon plate or whatever it might be you're consuming. It just paired with it perfectly.
Yeah.
And it also ramped up at times, and I don't mean like actiony ramped up, but just emotion wise subtly ramped up. And it just was, the music in this title I thought was such a good portion. It was without a doubt like part of the gameplay, if that makes sense, you know.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it was just as effective as the environment you're walking around in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And probably a good
Yeah.
time to mention the environments look pretty good. Like there are
They do.
certainly this world has big, hard edges and stuff. There are certainly like,
Hmm.
big polygonal rocks everywhere and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And some of the textures are just kind of like, oh, here's two colors next to each other. That's a texture.
Yeah.
But still, when you kind of take it all in as a whole, and like I said, when you look at the water looks amazing. The sun reflecting off
Yeah.
of it, everything just looks really, really good. There's those God rays that are coming in through the
Yeah.
clouds. Like
Oh, and day night cycles naturally going. I mean, they're like, Link's Awakening, not Link's Awakening. They're like a Link. What was the Ocarina of Time? They're quick day and night cycles. I don't know
yeah,
how long they go, but yeah, I dug how it was day night cycles that were naturally going on, so that when the morning hit and you saw the sun and the way it reflected on things, you're like, oh, it looks so neat. It was such a, I don't know. It gave me that wonderment feeling, like the day night cycles used to back in Morrowind when I first experienced them. Back in the old OG games. And it was creative and subtle though. But yeah, it's not a flashy game. It's not like a mind blowing visual, but for whatever visuals they put in there, they were mind blowing, and not because of all sorts of textures and volumetric fog and shadows and colors. No, just atmosphere. It was such an immersive atmosphere with the color palette was a little drab besides the sun, but that's what made that day cycle so more impactful,
Right.
and the atmosphere being drab added to that foreboding feeling in that heavy weight of walking around and trying to connect these beams of light for an unknown reason and heading towards an area that you don't know why you're heading towards it really, besides which we never talked about, was this woman's voice that would whisper to you at certain points every time you would interact with the sorrow or those objects. There were like two objects in these two different areas.
There's some pretty awesome moments in this game, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to go through a couple of them, some of the ones that I thought were amazing. And again,
Mm-hmm.
this is where it gets into spoiler territory, but I think it's finally time. We never did the Games Cast live spoiler cast that we wanted to do, so I think
Yeah, yeah.
this is my outlet right here.
Go for it.
So I think one of the cool first things that happens is finding the boat for the first time. You've been walking around
Yeah.
for a while, and then suddenly you're like, "Oh, here's a boat." And so
Mm-hmm.
all of this water that's sort of been blocking you and going, "Oh no, that's how we kept you, on land. That's how we kept you confined to these smaller areas." Suddenly, the whole world feels like it just opened up, and they let you go pretty far out into the water before they
Yeah.
go, "Oh no, you can't go any further." So
Yeah.
this is the first time I think you're able to get really lost,
Mm-hmm.
get off track pretty quickly. Um,
And it was neat because I thought the boat was just going to be a simple 2 minute type of
yeah,
thing from me to there, from this area to that area, and then I was done with the boat.
right, not the
But
case.
no, not the. It's a big portion of puzzle solving, and you interact with that boat up until close towards the last portion of the game.
Hmm.
I even went back to it a few times because this game is very much, once you acquire the boat and then the other mode of transportation, which we'll get to, which it really opens up everything. So you're going everywhere a lot faster. It was really neat.
Yeah,
Um,
and also the first time, I think maybe it's the first time you really used the boat for a puzzle. You actually end up lowering a statue into the boat.
yeah,
And so you're rowing the boat, and behind you is this giant statue that
creepy, like Father Time from Houses of the Holy, the Led Zeppelin thing. It had that eerie, and you just look behind it and it's got the staff and it's just standing there. Yeah, it was really, it seemed like a character, didn't it?
yeah, it was
Like another
creepy.
character. Yeah.
It's like you're escorting the Grim Reaper around this world. You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll just take you wherever you want to go, buddy. Just don't fucking kill me.
Right.
It
Like
was it,
crossing the river Styx with, I forget what the spirit that thing is that carries souls across the river of Styx.
oh man,
But yeah,
I think you're on your own for this one. Yeah,
somebody will comment.
yeah, no, it's been in video games before. I should know this.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think the biggest, craziest thing that blew my mind in this game was as you kind of approach the end, where you're like, oh, that looks like the end of the game over there because I've sort of made it to the end of this open world.
Yeah.
You sort of see a tower, but you can see something inside of it, and as you get a little bit closer to it, you're like, oh, it's a hot air balloon.
Yeah.
Right? And in my book, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is the Wizard of Oz. I'm going to get in
Yeah.
the hot air balloon. Wizard goes back to Kansas, and you're out of there.
Yeah.
Credits roll. Not the
Yeah.
case, though. Not the case.
No, not very unsafe. Hot air balloon though.
Oh, it's all
There
torn
wasn't,
up and shit.
and I mean, like nothing besides one bar protecting you. Yeah, it was very unsafe. But yeah, I had the same feeling. Like you, I'm like, here we go. I'm done. This is the end of the game.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, this is just your like unbelievable mode of transportation. Go fucking anywhere. Unbelievable how high you can go.
Yeah.
Which you have to. There's areas you got to go very high up because you realize this is at the point in the game where I realized collecting the sorrows was the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I thought they were just things I could get on the way and maybe told a story or did something or whatever it might be.
You
I
get a
wasn't
trophy
sure.
for finding all of them, something like that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, they're like
Yeah.
an optional collectible. And it's like, oh, as it turns out, you can't finish the game until you find them all. And without the hot
Mhm.
air balloon, you can't even get to them.
Exactly. And it was the hot air balloon that I took off on that I went to that I saw something glowing red in some other huge type of a tower and I'd been wanting to get to it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to that.
Mhm.
So I went to it and I approached it and there's these the I forget what the things are that come out of the sorrows, these like little cube thingies, not cubes, they're hexagons or something.
Yeah,
And I saw the few I collecting connecting red beams of light around this hole in this tower, and it said you can't come here until all 10 sorrows are found. So I'm like, aha, I have to find the sorrows. And
right.
I wanted to at that point because I really wanted to explore the world in that fucking hot air balloon, you know? So that's where it really took off. And that was a couple of hours into the game
Yeah.
that it really kind of the object of the game took off for me, and it really started hitting a stride. I'm like, all right, I'm going to hit that area. It just really became exciting, almost more so than before. So yeah, it was great. I mean, what was your experience when you first encountered that hot air balloon?
I mean, like I said, I thought the credits were going to roll the second I jumped into it, and I was like, oh man, I wish I'd gotten all those sorrows. But I was like, I need to finish this game because at that point, I took a long time playing this game. I don't know where you were at when you hit the hot air balloon, but I was at like the 5 or 6 hour mark at that point. It took me a while to get there.
Yeah, I would say when I hit the hot air balloon, I was about 4.5 to 5 hours
So
into
pretty
that game.
similar, pretty similar.
Yeah.
And then like another hour or so of like floating around with the hot air balloon, finding the last few sorrows, right?
I was saying around an hour and a half to 2 hours. I think I spent about 7 hours on this game total, maybe 7.5.
Yeah, it's nice though because basically you find out that the crows, if you look for the crows will direct you to
Mm-hmm.
to the next sorrow that you can find. So it's not
Yep.
you're not just like randomly searching the world for nothing. It's like oh look around for the crows. The crows will guide you.
And there's a countdown. Like every time you collect one, it tells you how many are remaining, so it keeps you in check with
Yeah,
that. And one thing with the audio and the music with this game, um, you and I had a conversation. There's a point in the game where there's phones, right? And I usually don't put headphones on, and we can thank Resident Evil for that
yeah.
because it just scarred my soul and terrorized me for months after that.
Not wearing headphones in VR should be considered a sin. I'm sorry,
It
you have
is.
broken the first commandment.
Exactly, because after playing Separation with headphones on, I'm giving a tip to everybody. If you don't wear headphones and you play this game, when you get to that area where the phone is ringing out
Yeah,
of the row of phones, you're never going to find it. Because remember, I told you I couldn't find which phone was ringing because of my speakers,
right.
and where I play the game, it wasn't correctly showing where I should go. As soon as I put those headphones on and went in there and the phone rang, I'm like, there it is. And I went and grabbed it,
Yeah.
and then I didn't take the headphones off at all
And can we just say
after
what a
that.
cool moment that was too? You're basically on your own in this post-apocalyptic world, exploring this ancient civilization, not another person in sight
Yeah.
for hours, and then you row up to the row up to the shore. You dock your boat. You get up. You start walking up the shore, and you hear a phone ring. You're
Yeah. Yeah.
like that. Like that is one of those moments, and there's a couple of these moments in the game where you're like, oh, there. This is our world.
Yes. That's where I was like, wait a minute. I started almost having I don't know if it did almost two things at once for me when I encountered that phone. It made me feel comfort, being like, okay, I am on our world.
Yeah.
I'm in our universe, world, Earth, whatever it is. But then it also made me feel more foreboding because of the fact that we are on our worlds.
What happened
You know what
here?
I mean? Yes. Yeah. And so I had two instant emotions that were like tipping the scales in opposite ways, and it was really neat. And then after you find the phone and what happens right after, I thought that was really neat too.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
very cool stuff. Some very cool moments in this game for sure.
Yeah.
Jeremy, before we get to our rating, which we do need to get to soon, uh,
Mhm.
I think I'd like to know what you thought the message of this game was. Obviously it's open to interpretation, but obviously a very introspective game. But as Polish Paul would say, what is the meaning? What is the message?
You know, what I took out of that game, I think, is that, is as quiet and lonely and maybe hauntingly empty the world might seem, there's a destination, keep going, like there's light. You know what I mean? And there's a big open world out there, and it kind of conveyed all of those feelings to me, that there's a big open world. And without getting to at the end, which at the end too, I was I'm still left to think about that at the ending,
Sirens
of
on my end. Sorry.
Siren's always on your end.
Yeah, they're never on your end.
No,
No,
no.
no. Okay, well,
But yeah,
I'm curious.
oh,
Keep me posted.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I've been thinking about the game. It's one of those games that stuck with me, like thinking about afterwards,
Yeah. I
you
will
know?
say there's maybe one or two complaints we should probably mention before we wrap this thing up. DualShock 4 only, which I know that's an
Mhm.
issue for some people. For me, I was like, you know what, this is just a lot of walking in this game. So I was
Yeah,
totally happy kicking back on my couch and just holding the analog stick down, being like,
yeah.
walk that way. Just do it, man. I don't need to stand in my living room and be like, go.
Yeah,
But it also means that you don't have two hands in this world. And one of the things that really sucked at launch was trying to interact with those cranks. But now you can walk up to them and hit the X button and turn the crank with the analog stick, and it works as far as I'm concerned flawlessly now. But getting in and out of the boat and getting in and out of the hot air balloon can be a massive issue. And I know some people, I remember
yeah,
Kevgret was saying at launch he had this issue. And I was like, I've never had that problem ever. And then my second playthrough, non-stop issues trying to get in and out of the boat. Like you're waiting for that arrow to pop up. And something you're just
yeah,
like, you're stepping forward, you're stepping backwards, turning, trying to get it at an angle. You're like, where's the fucking arrow, man? Give me the prompt so I can get in the
yeah,
boat or out of the boat. And man, it can be an
yeah.
issue.
Oh yeah, big time. I had that, and I want to say 7 out of 10 times because the game's not perfect.
Nope.
With the controls, churning the boat in the hot air balloon
Yep.
can be a nightmare.
Yep.
Your turn speed as walking is incredibly slow.
Yeah, that
But
was patched in. It was blink turning, not even click turning, blink turning, and they patched
geez
in smooth turning,
Louise.
but it's still super slow. I think we need to rate this.
I think we do need to rate
All
this.
right, what's our rating scale?
All right, one is race out, get the game, download it, pay full price, give a tip. You want this title, and you will love it. It is perfect. Two is slow down a bit, wait till you maybe see it on sale, maybe beg your mother, your father to buy it for you, something like that. So it's not coming out of your pocket because you'll enjoy it.
Okay.
And then three is don't bother, save your money, order out pizza instead. Actually, $12.99, you couldn't even get delivery pizza, but rent something on Amazon and forget it.
Do anything else with your money is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much anything. Yeah.
Cool.
So Brian,
Hey,
what do you rate this?
man, I will tell you, dude, that I've got to rate this one personally. Sometimes when we give a game a one, we say this is a game for everybody, that everybody needs to play this. This is a game for everybody. This is not a game for everybody. I can't give this game anything less than a one because I loved every single second of it from beginning to end. Like I said, the first time I played through it took me about 7 hours. AJ was playing through it at the same time as I was, and we were like calling each other every couple hours, being like, "Where are you? What's happening here? How did you get through this point? Blah blah blah." And it was like one of these like weird mysteries. Like the first when PT first hit the PlayStation 4, and
Yeah.
everybody was like, "I don't understand what this is. Like, what's going on?" And the whole internet was ablaze trying to help each other out, and it was like
Yeah.
this deep mystery. And like that's how I haven't felt this way since PT, and it was awesome to be able to go through it with him at the same time.
Hmm.
And man, and from a personal standpoint, I've talked a lot, I'm sure, in the past on the litter box or whatever about my ex who passed away and how much that hit me and how it changed my entire life. And sometimes you go a long time without thinking about that, and sometimes it hits very very home during certain points. In this game made it hit home and made me think about trying to survive in a world by yourself, like suddenly, right?
Hmm.
And trying to make trying to make connections bringing up these obelisks and connecting these beam of lights was saying, here you are in a world by yourself, and for the first time you have to go forth on your own and make these connections by yourself. And how difficult is it, right? You don't just go walk up to him and go click a button. It's like it takes work.
Hmm.
So I mean, I don't know the last time a game hit me this emotionally, like this, like hit so close to home for me.
I can tell in you right now explaining we've never had you give this kind of a personal opinion on a title, so I
Yeah,
can easily see that.
and dude, $12.99.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
an amazing price point. He wanted
yeah,
everybody to buy it and not have to wait for a sale. Like he killed it with that.
yeah.
But enough about me. What did you think of this game?
I've been fortunate in my life. I've lived a different life than you. I haven't lost anybody that I've lost a lot of people, it's definitely happened, but nobody that was like a partner or my companion. You know what I mean? Not in a death way. They're still alive. They live right over there, remarried, and all that jazz. And it was a different type of a separation,
Right.
not like this game. So I didn't have that, depression or sorrow or whatever it might be going into this game playing it. But it gave me this feeling of mystery, foreboding, not trusting the calm. It conveyed so many different emotions with polygons and textures and sounds. And I thought that was fascinating that a title, and I'm blown away by it, was one dude. I didn't even know it was one guy with the music either. I thought there was a team to it, and that being one might, it doesn't change my opinion on the game because I thought the game was great, but it gives my respect towards him for doing this on his own is engorged. So I mean, I thought the game was great. I thought the atmosphere, the not explaining anything, just dumping you in and letting you kind of move forward on your own in this empty world where there's nobody really truly to hold your hand except the mysterious voice that kind of speaks to you, guiding you along, and I just found it to be, I don't know. I just really, I'm blown away by it, to be honest. I absolutely was thinking, what am I going to rate this? Personally, I want to say a 1, because I loved it. The glitches and the issues meant nothing to me. Turning
Same.
slow, I was like, okay, I'm over it. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Throw this with a different skin on it and put it into some other game, and I'd be like, but it just did everything else so well that it is not going to be for everybody. There's other people that are going to not like this game at all. The pacing, but even if there's people that aren't big into this type of a game, a walking sim with some light puzzle solving, this might change their mind because everything came together in a unique way. And sometimes there's those certain little gems that come out and hit the right points, and they make it so you enjoy something you never normally wouldn't, and it might open you up to that type of game, or it might just, this is it, a one-hit wonder for you. But either way, I absolutely, the price point is incredible.
Right.
I want to say 1. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I enjoyed playing it. This is a title people can ask Brian that typically for me to jump in on a game on my own is rare. You'll be like, Brian, you'll be like, Jeremy, here's the game we're playing. And then there's the game I play. You know what I mean? But like, as you know, there's been a few times over the last few weeks, I'm like, I played Separation. I really like it, and this one, it did it for me. I loved it. I thought it was great. And I thought, I mean, I wish there was more, to be honest. I would like to find more sorrows,
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
and
sure.
that's the other thing too. It was just the right length of time. You know what I mean? There was just the right amount of sorrows. Nothing was tricky where they might be hidden. They were pretty much obvious to a degree. So there's no frustration built into this game, which I like too, because games that build frustration as part of their gameplay, to me, doesn't really strike a chord with me. This one didn't do that. It just, I thought it was great.
All right, you guys. Well, make sure you let us know in the comments, what did you think of Separation. Hopefully you guys watched my complete playthrough. So the mystery that Martin was teasing, I revealed during that. We won't talk about that here. Take it or leave it. Yeah, it's a little.
You'll have to tell me after.
Yeah, well, I'll totally tell you right after we're done filming, for sure.
Sweet.
Yeah, yeah. Let us know what you thought of Separation. Did you guys find it as? Did you connect to it emotionally? Did you enjoy the puzzles? Did you enjoy the world? What do you think, man? Let us know in the comments below. And then, of course, I think we're doing one more episode of Why We Love about not old or hidden gems or anything like that next week.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're going to get back to our original mission statement, and we're going to be covering a lot of a lot of the stuff, the unknown games from the PlayStation Store.
Yeah. The barnacles.
The barnacles. Yeah. The Nick Mulo endorsed barnacles.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Does it for another episode of I almost said PSVR this week. That does it for another episode of Why We Love PSVR. My name's Brian Paul.
And I'm Jeremy King.
And we'll see you next week.
Next week.